Staccato decided to step up their game and build a gun worthy of duty use. And after 2,500 rounds of everyday carry and use by me without no cleaning or oiling, has it held up? In this video, I review the Staccato P. So a little context about how I ended up with this gun is that every once in a while I will get on Gunbroker and I'll put low bids on some of the guns out there just to see if that ends up getting them. Now what had happened is I placed a bid for $1,700 and I left it and didn't think about it. And about a week later, I received a notice from Gunbroker saying that I had won the Staccato. Now, when I opened it and I examined everything, because I was a little concerned that, okay, this is a good price, so there's got to be a catch. I opened it up and everything was brand new, and then I quickly noticed that it was not an optic ready model. So if you don't care about having it optic ready, you can pick up an iron-sighted Staccato P for a good deal. That said, can you make it optic ready? Yes, you can. Staccato does offer a milling service if you have certain Staccatos that fall within that range. For about $700, they will make this optic ready. Now, when you add $700 to $1,700, that puts you about the MSRP of a brand new one retail, and they go for about $24.99 according to the website. But I'm going to continue on with the story of my Staccato because there's more to the story than meets the eye with this. And before I dive more into that, I want to tell you a little bit about the gun itself. So for those who are new to the channel, the 2011 is actually a trademark name specific to Staccato. So if you hear the 2011 reference being referenced to any double stack 1911, it's actually the incorrect name for those, at least legally speaking. But this is a true 2011. So that's why you see the Prodigy DS, DS stands for double stack, and various other platforms will have it something to that effect. For the price that you pay for this gun, the fit and finish is excellent. Everything is fairly tight. It's a little loose on the back, but when you're thinking about a duty gun, you're gonna want a little bit of flexibility there because dirt, grime, and things are gonna get inside there. And when you have uber tight tolerances, that can get temperamental if you're not constantly oiling, cleaning, like you would see with what we use for race guns. And so as far as the tolerances are concerned, when we think about it compared to any of the $600–700, it's easily 3 or 4 steps above in terms of fit and finish. The whole gun itself feels great in the hands. When you actually present it, the index feels natural. These serrations up front that are easy to grab because I like to rack from the top side. The grips I actually like on these a lot. Now, a lot of people harp on for the price of the gun, they would hope they get metal grips. I want to kind of actually take a step and kind of get you guys to think a little bit about this. Having polymer grips actually helps absorb a little bit more recoil impulse. So think about it. If you have either aluminum or steel grips, that's a solid piece of metal. So when you're getting recoil absorption through this thing and it's actually moving through, the polymer will actually flex a little bit, giving it a feeling of less recoil impulse. Does it have that shooting feeling like you would with the high-end 2011, 1911 double stack? No, it's not necessarily a negative. It's a characteristic of the demographic that Staccato's aiming for. Now, one of the first things I noticed about this gun, if you'd watched my story on the Masterpiece Arms DS9, I had to change my grip in order to get that gun to work. I had a habit because I have a fairly high grip on the grip tang, naturally speaking, I end up bumping the safety. Now, interestingly enough, while I'm pointing out the safety on the Staccato, it's actually a little bit more friendly to a variety of grips rather than it being a specific grip. The reason for that is because the ambi safeties do not protrude out as far as maybe other ones that you would see on other high-end 2011, 1911 platforms. It's actually fairly flush, especially from the bottom side of the grip where I might likely be able to bump the safety on recoil. I owned this gun prior to owning my DS9s, and I found that I could just run with the grip I had back then, which is more up here like this, and it worked. Now, my grip has evolved to something more like this now, which is more of a natural grip for the 1911 platform. And in that case, I still have the same positive retention and feel. I do like the texture of the gripping on this because I do carry this. And I'd say that it's just grippy enough to where it can actually get a good hold and I feel confident about that. But it's not like when you carry it, it rubs against your belly all day long. We can't talk about a 2011 without talking about the trigger. You have just a little bit of pre-travel, which is nice. It comes to a firm all, which what you would expect with a finely tuned 1911, and brakes at 4.5 pounds. And what that equates to is a shooting experience that really, when you're going for distance on these, has an uninterrupted feel to it. And so this contributes towards the accuracy of the gun of having a trigger this refined. Now, I know people that are used to the higher end ones are gonna kind of gripe about they wish it was 2 pounds. Guys, I will tell you, for carry, this is more than sufficient. And I do shoot this in competition when I decide to shoot it from appendix, and it more than does the job. 4.5 pounds is probably the good equal medium for both performance and something that you can carry and not worry about it going off. I have large XL hands, and I'll give a reference for the guys in the comment section. I actually wear XL mechanics gloves to give you guys a reference of how big my hands are. And for me, I would actually prefer to have the flat profile. Now, the cool thing is, this being a popular platform, you have options in the aftermarket if you want to go that route. But having larger hands, I feel like I have to push in more than I would have to pull my finger back, which is my preference. But not necessarily anything that hinders my performance in shooting. You know, it's just something I have to get used to. And a couple of dry fire rounds, I am good to go. I do want to kind of harp on one con when you get it out of the box is the mag release is a little sticky out of the box, and because the tolerances are fairly tight in here, it doesn't move around even it being against a polymer. When I first had it, I found that it would get pretty sticky trying to do reloads a couple times I ran it at IDPA matches. Now, after about 500 rounds or so, it started to go away, and right now it's nice and smooth, and I haven't had problems with it since. The one thing I like about this is the mag well. It is gigantic. The height on the top side of it is something that sticks out to me, because what I like about it is as I put my hands in here and I kind of index my pinky in there, it actually forces my hands up high, so I have a fairly higher grip and I can lock in against the mag well. And of course, the question that kind of gets asked sometimes is, hey, can this accept other 1911, 2011 double stack type magazines? The answer is yes. It sits on a fairly universal platform, which with mags that you would see. So for example, you can go get Prodigy magazines and it will work with the Staccato. Now, let's get into what this is made for is the shooting experience. But before I do that, I'm gonna ask if you guys like this video that you hit the like button, and I'm gonna ask that you subscribe too, because I'm gonna be running it against the Glock 47. And the reason I wanna do that is I wanna highlight what the difference in the investment is between buying this gun at $2,500 and a Glock 47, which you can get for around just under $700. Is there a difference in performance? That's why you're gonna wanna subscribe to find out. I actually did interview a handful of law enforcement individuals to get their perspective on why they would actually consider a Staccato P for duty use. I did come across a municipality out here that they actually prefer the Staccato P for their department. Now, it is a higher investment, but here are the reasons why they choose it, is the aggregate accuracy scores tend to go up. The reason for that is you don't have to work as hard to shoot this gun well. This gun is tuned so well from right out of the box and reliable that even I was able to get a groove about 1 to 2 inch at 25 yards in the configuration you see it. And so what that translates to shooters that are less experienced or perhaps put less time in is that their general accuracy goes up because they just don't have to work as hard. Now, that doesn't mean that with the Glock you can't shoot it if you put time into it, but bear in mind, a lot of these guys are on a limited budget as far as what they can put through ammo-wise and time on the range. They've got the gun fairly figured out. That's the thing you get with Staccato is they've been around. They were priorly STI, which they specialized in making competition guns. Now, if you're coming from the world of $600 to $800 guns, this is going to be a big jump for you. And so it's balanced well, and it just lands so easy wherever it is I want to go with it. It takes no effort. I would say a lot of that is that the balance is pretty much back here in about the center of the gun. And let's talk really about what's it like in recoil. So I mentioned earlier that it does kind of stick out amongst its higher echelon type 2011, 1911s out there. The big reason for that is because of how it comes sprung from the factory. Believe it or not, specifically the 5-inch Prodigy, it comes with a 9-pound recoil spring and a 17-pound main. Now, what that translates to is a fairly soft shooting experience. But even as I learned with that gun, it can be temperamental to what type of ammo it likes to use. Staccato gives you the option of using 11, 13, and 15 pound for recoil, and they come with a 19-pound main spring. So it's a fairly heavy sprung, comparatively speaking. Now, the reason why you may want to do that is because you want to have options of what you use for ammo. I actually kept the 13-pound recoil spring in this, and the big positive in that is any ammo I put in this thing, whether it's cheap Blazer 115 all the way up to high-end plus P ammo, it just fed it reliably, no issues, and after 2,500 rounds, I actually have had no malfunctions with this gun. And so in a situation where you may be under duress a little bit, having a gun that does naturally perform better does actually make it easier to shoot under intense pressure. Even when I went strong hand a handful of times, that I felt that getting an ideal grip and indexing was natural. Now, when I talk about the recoils a little bit, possibly a little bit snappier than your high-end ones, if you were to compare this to guns in the lower range or other duty guns, this gun really feels like an upgrade. Now, I want to stop and talk about kind of the main tagline I had in here is that I put 2,500 rounds through it, didn't clean it, and didn't oil it. So what I did do is when I bought it, I did open it up, and that's what I like about the Staccato P over most 1911s and 2011s. With most 1911s that are the bushing style barrel, you end up having to actually pull out a tool to get it twisted, and then you have to make sure that the recoil spring doesn't fly out on you. Now, with most other high-end 2011, 1911s that you would see on the race scene, you end up having to put this annoying paperclip type tool in there to pull out the recoil and guide rod, and it's quite a process. What I love about this is the toolless guide rod, and I've actually had an STI DVC open with the same type of guide rod, and some people get concerned about the reliability of those. I ended up putting about 4,000 or 5,000 rounds through that gun, and not even an issue. This gun with 2,500 rounds, when you think about cleaning, you want things simple. This is as simple as it gets when you actually use the actual toolless guide rod to pull this gun apart. This is what it looked like on the inside after 2,500 rounds. You can see that for the most part, it's not bad. Maybe it's a little caked up by the front slide rails, but for the most part, the gun just has general debris. And I had this gun for over a year now. And so this gun is something I carry confidently, and knowing that if I had to protect my family, that this is gonna be the gun that I feel confident will do the job. The cool thing is when you pay more, you do get more with the Staccato. Yes, you are gonna have to clean it, and that may be a con for some, but the one thing I have to attribute that's really a big positive is the DLC coating that comes with it. After 2,500 rounds, a lot of reholstering, a lot of work on it. The finish on the edges are still new. There's not actually a blemish or anywhere on this gun considering how much I actually use it. That's one thing I'd have to say that you're investing is in the final quality of what you get with this. The thing is, I've always felt confident using this gun from day one. When I pulled it out of the box and put a little bit of grease on it, I ran outside and shot a mock stage. And this is what it was like, fresh sight unseen, no warm up, anything. I was able to adapt to the gun that quick and get going on it. And for an everyday carry gun or duty gun, you don't want to have to think about, will this gun do what I need it to? Because the Staccato P will be there. That's what you're buying here, ladies and gentlemen. A gun that you pay more, but you do get more. And they even have thought out the finicky things you would have with the typical 1911. They thought about that over decades of refinement. And these actually do make it into the hands of law enforcement professionals. The Staccato P is an everyday gun that you can look forward to shooting. When you have this much confidence in your hands, you tend to want to go out and proactively train more. And guys, anytime you get more time at the range is only a positive. And so this is what you're paying for in the difference. The gun that you look forward to talking about, owning, and shooting. And with that said, I will see you at the range.